Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Black Boy Joy Conversations. I'm excited to have this particular show on tonight. We have some amazing content and some great guests. I will give some time for people to log in. I know it's Friday night, but it's COVID-19 still, so some people are still in the house just trying to figure out if this is the right place to be or not. Um, I want to just say again, thank you to those that watched us on Tuesday of this week and of last week that shared the stream, that have commented, that have sent your messages, your texts, and your emails. I really, really appreciate it. Black Boy Joy Conversations is about uplifting Black boys, brown boys, and men of color um, to live in their joy, to live in their truth, and to find something about their life to make them heal and to be their best selves. And so I'm truly excited tonight about our special guests that I have with us. Some of you are logging in, and I appreciate you for sharing and reposting, as I said earlier. Um, Earlier today, we launched the hard launch of our candle line, the Black Boy Joy candles. It's a buy one get one free sale this weekend. So if you are watching us, if you comment while this broadcast is live, I will send you a special gift if you comment and order. So you will get more than just the buy one get one free. So on to our show. I'm going to bring in our guest. We have our special guest, Nigel Ashford. Ashford. He is the host of Outspoken, and Toddric Daniels, who is one of my best friends.
Hey,
What's up,
Hello,
Nigel and
hello,
Toddric?
hello.
Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
good.
Good, good. There is no conversation without a libation.
I'll do my
Cheers. I'll drink
water.
to that.
Todd, it looks like yours is brown. So since you're brown, won't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're drinking?
So my name is Toddric Daniels, affectionately known as Todd, a Dallas, Texas native, and I'm drinking Hennessy.
All right, Todd.
Yeah, with a little something mixed in.
What's the little song, Todd?
I cannot share my secrets.
Oh
That's
Lord.
a that's a man. That's not a boy drink. That's a
It's a
man. This is
man
Black Boy
drink.
Joy.
That's the hair on your chest drink.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, Hennessy. Nigel, why don't you
Yes, yes,
introduce yourself
yes.
and tell us what you will be drinking? I know what you're drinking now, but what
Okay.
you will be drinking.
So again, my name is Nigel Ashford. I live currently in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, so I'm from the South South. Um, like you said, I'm a host of Outspoken, and with Outspoken, it really is a platform where people of all shades, all colors, who are in our LGBT community, LGBTQIA plus community, and plus people who are supporters of the community can come on, talk about lighthearted and also strong issues that are taking place that are usually not discussed. And I really wanted this platform to be a voice for us, because we always have groups, we always have organizations, we always have friends, we have brunches, and we talk amongst each other about things that's going on in our lives, but we never really see it. And we never get visuals of it, and we never get vocals of it. So I really wanted to create a platform that brings those topics to life and have people to have something like, oh my God, I'm going through that, or oh my God, I understand where they're coming from, because we don't see ourselves a lot on shows or
Yeah.
on television or on movies. So I really wanted to create a platform that way.
Nice, nice. Well, how long have you been doing it?
Uh, this week would be week 8.
Okay.
I started it
Congratulations.
during COVID. Yes, thank you, thank you.
Congratulations. Well, let's give a cheers to Outspoken.
Well, if you want me to drink, I will. You have to pull my leg.
so, I'm excited to have you both here with me tonight. I'm really thankful that you, Todd, could join us. Um, as always, I have to ask the leading question: when you see Black Boy Joy, what does that resonate with you, or what's your definition, or how does that show up for you?
I think I'm still. I watched the broadcast a couple weeks ago. I'm still on the journey. There are things that I encounter every day that bring me joy. I'm finding ways to make myself happy. I think the older I get and the more I get to know myself, I come into myself, and I find things in the world to make me happy. I make my own happiness. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the world owes me anything, and quite often, being honest, they're not going to give me any joy, right? So I have to create that joy for myself. So, I don't know that I can answer that question directly. I think it's a journey that I'm on, and every day I find something new, whether it be in myself or something in the world that makes me happy. I'm continually finding that thing, and I hope that I stay on that journey.
Nice. So it's a journey.
It is a journey.
It is a
Okay.
journey.
What about you, Nigel? What when you hear Black Boy Joy, what does that say to you? Beyond the show, for you, what does that mean?
I really think it's inner peace and inner joy. I think when we first going before the show, I went through some major depression.
Mm.
I wasn't really close to God like I usually am. I stopped seeing my therapist. Like, I hated my job. It was a lot going on. And once I started doing the work, going to therapy, praying more, letting things that really made my life more toxic or more negative or made me feel down, and really changing my mindset and the way of
Yeah.
thinking, I started getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't remember which friend I called, but after 6 weeks, 5 weeks of therapy, prayer, doing my show, doing the things that I love, I spent that whole day by myself, just cooking me dinner, watching my favorite show. It was something. And I was watching Insecure one night, and I said to myself,
Insecure.
right, I said to myself, I had to pause the show and say, oh my God, I am happy. And then I had to ask myself, why am I happy? And then I had to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
my friend and be like, I'm crying right now because I feel inner peace and feel inner joy, and I
Wow.
haven't felt that in a while. So I think that's my Black Boy joy, really having and finding that inner peace and inner joy within myself.
So I celebrate you for that, because that's a moment, or some moments that I had to have where I had to, you know, gone through a couple of transitions and whatever in life, just life in itself. And I think there were a couple of times I did call Todd, and I was like, I'm happy. There was a space where, when I think about Black Boy Joy, I do think about it being a journey, and think about it being inner peace and inner joy, because there was a space where I was in such a dark space.
Mm.
I couldn't really.
Are you co-signing?
I'm just saying. This is deep. Let it out, brother. Let it out.
It was a very dark space that nobody could really relate to, and it was a dark space that I wanted anybody to pull me out, to just you sometimes see the white women, you want to just like, wake up, Karen.
Right.
I was just in that space, just slap the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But it was doing the work. Previous shows I've always said before, therapy. I love therapy. I support therapy. One point I was doing therapy twice a week. I had two therapists. Like, they was end of the week, beginning of the week. But now, not so intense. But I had a lot of shit to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about Black Boy Joy, I think about our innocence. I think about our vulnerability. When we were kids, when we were kids, and you remember used to being able to say, Nigel, I don't know if this is for you, Todd, this is for you. When you would be able to say what you want to be when you grow up,
Right.
and you were like, yeah, you and you looked at your older I don't want to say just family members or cousins or whatever, and you just thought they were just dynamic and Superman and so forth. And then life happens.
It happens. Yeah.
And it feels as though your innocence and joy is taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you, so you say that,
Me
you're
or Todd?
watching, huh?
Me or Todd?
Well, for both of you guys.
Okay.
How do
But I'm going to
you,
let Nigel go first.
it doesn't matter. How do you let your joy show up in your life every day? Even if it's a journey and inner peace, how do you let it show up every day?
I think I let my joy show up. I think just two ways. One, I have to do something for myself. I have to have a moment of meditation. I have to have a moment of prayer. I have to have a moment that's dedicated to me. For me to have joy, I have to have peace. And as citizens, and I'm so grateful for COVID, not the negatives, but I've taken advantage of finding out what brings me joy and how do I express it for myself and how do I fill my cup up so I can express joy in other people.
Yeah.
Because you can't give something that's empty.
Right.
And another thing is and my therapist taught me this, I really write down the things that make me happy or things that I accomplish because I am my worst critic. I am my worst enemy. I will put myself down before I put anybody else down. But sometimes I have to remind me, oh, you achieved this today. You were a great friend today. You gave some really good advice this day. You did that with so and so at your job. Like, and then it just reminded me, like, oh, I'm doing my thing. Like, oh, shucks. So I think just those constant reminders is really how I express joy. And also, it takes work.
Yeah.
As much energy that we put in putting ourselves down and putting other people down, we can be working on and it's harder to lift yourself up and lift other people up as well. So I think that's just really how I express my joy. I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would second that. I think I find joy in, I revel in my accomplishments. I revel in the things I've learned to revel in, what I give to the universe. I think what I do for other people. I see my heart now. I think for a long time I didn't see my heart, and I didn't know, the things that I was doing was actually were making a difference. And I recognize now my value. So those, things that bring me joy are really when I'm helping somebody who can't help themselves and expect nothing in return. When like you said, Nigel, when I do something, when I accomplish something, I've learned to say, you know what, good job. Let's move on to the next thing. And that's really how I find joy. I recognize it in myself, and for a long time I didn't.
That's powerful. And both of you have kind of said the same thing, but in different words, and it's beautiful. Todd, I just got to take a moment. Do you see your banner?
I know. So I was getting ready to say, like, how long have you had this show? Because how long has Black Boy Joy been around?
So Black Boy Joy, the idea and the concept has been around for about a year.
Okay.
Or more.
Wait, I'm sorry. To Daniel, I see number 2 now. Never mind. Keep it moving. Not even worth acknowledging. I apologize for cutting you off.
So the idea and the concept have been around for about a year and some change. But I was in such a dark space that I knew what I wanted to do. And going back to the inner critic, and that I'm learning now in the space that I'm in now, like sometimes let it go, Ryan. Sometimes I have my moments where I'm overthinking, and like you said, you are your own self-critic, and I think about the African proverb, and I love this African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, there's no enemy without. In the sense that And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, I get it. But then I lived it. Whereas, we as black boys, we are taught how to deal with the enemies or deal with our enemies or our frenemies and so forth, but we never talk about the enemy inside of here.
Mm-hmm.
We never deal with the inner critic. I can think about how this cousin taught me how to fight, this one taught me how to defend and protect myself. But, when it comes to being able to defend against my own self, that's some work I felt like nobody ever taught me.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the inner critic for yourself? I'll let Todd go first.
See, I was gonna let Nigel go first. It's hard. It's hard. And I think you're right on the money, Ryan. I think as black men, we're taught to deal in the world that we're in, right? How to move in the world. And I know the show is about code switching, and we're taught how to code switch. We're taught how to. Most of us are taught how to move in certain situations. But to your point, we're never taught how to deal with us, right? We cry alone some nights. We have fears. We're emotional beings, but we're not taught how to deal with that thing, what that is. So it really is. Again, it's a journey on figuring out how to deal with those things, how to sit in your quiet moments and talk to yourself and talk to God and figure it out. Nobody's going to figure it out for you. And we're lacking in that skill.
What do you say, Nigel?
Can you say the question one more time?
Because I don't even know if I answered it, by the way.
I just want to make sure I answer it right. Can you say the question?
You did answer it. The question is, how do you deal with the inner critic? How do you deal with the inner critic that tries to steal your joy?
Okay. Self-care, and change of mindset. Going back to what Toddric said and being raised, when you become an adult, and now let me go back. I feel like it's generational.
Yeah.
I feel like people born in the 40s, 50s, 60s, early 70s, some, not all felt that,
Early 70s. Let's just be clear.
Okay.
therapy is for white people. Massages. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for self-care. We have to deal with the world. We have to get bills paid. We have to make sure these kids, go to college. We have to work 2 or 3 jobs. We don't, in the past, our people never really had the time or the resources to do so. And it's been unfair. And I just think now that more people have more money, more better financial situations, more people have more education and understanding of the importance of mental and emotional health. Now that we are actually getting these resources, people are becoming better.
Yeah.
And also for black men, we were taught to don't smile, don't show emotion, don't cry, don't, all we see is anger or a provider or the guy who just be quiet and give you some money and say, enjoy, and who breaks his back for his family. That's all we've seen of African American men. So I just feel like this generation, and this is what I had to do for myself. When you become an adult, you have to reteach yourself. And that's what I really love about and I'm sorry I keep saying therapy, just going through therapy and finding out there was stuff that I didn't know that was a negative that impacted my life in the past that followed through. I just thought that's how it went. I just thought that's how things go. But when you just see things around you, like, no, it's time to reteach yourself. You don't have to constantly do this or do that. And if it doesn't make you feel good, to continuously doing it. I just feel like you have to reteach yourself as you get older. And you just have to find value in yourself. And you have to know, like, how can I provide that self-care for me?
Yeah.
So I think that's really because where I look at the spectrum, I again celebrate therapy. I told you how many times I went. Um, but I value that perspective. And one of the things I heard that I to this day kind of chew on that probably regurgitate from people as I was going through that dark space when I first came up with this idea of Black Boy Joy. And again, it's like being drunk with pain. I know that sounds weird, but being drunk with pain. Um, I was talking to someone and they told me like, retell your story or retell yourself something else. And I really wanted to say, how the hell do you do that? How the hell do you retell your story? How do you, change the narrative, or you know, reteach yourself. And so I lead into all that to say, how do we reteach ourselves from the inner critic, the narrative of woe is me or beating yourself up and all that? How do you retrain yourself? You may not know what joy looks like, but how do you retrain yourself to be on that path, to find that peace and that joy? Toddric. No, you were last. You were first last time, so we'll do Nigel. Let not Nigel go first.
How do you retrain yourself to say it one more
How do you
time?
how do you retrain yourself to think positive, to not let the inner critic beat you up, to not feed into that? How do you retrain yourself?
Um, the way I do it is really a mind thing for me. Things, let's see. For instance, my show. I get so nervous. I get so afraid. I am scared that a technical issue is going to take place.
You
And I
too?
think, yes, God. And I think it was episode right before my second or third, oh, right before my fourth episode. I don't know what happened, but my show started 38 minutes late due to I had two laptops. Both laptops didn't work. That was my first time meeting all my guests. And the first thing that came in my mind, oh my God, they're going to think I'm this unprofessional young Black boy who doesn't know what he's doing. My show's over. And I also suffered through anxiety. So the room was spinning. Like it was just like a whole ordeal. But I just thank God for my producer at the time. He was like, I'll fix it.
Don't worry
You have
about
your
it.
moment and I'll fix it. And I was like, okay. And I told my therapist about what happened, and he just gave me tips. And the next week, the computer started acting up again. And I followed my tips. First, grab something that's physical and that's real. Take control of the situation. Tell your audience, hey guys, just experiencing technical issues. And then he was like, related to something where somebody had a technical issue and it's funny to you. And I thought about the babyface situation when they had the battle. And I was like, and I laughed, and that laughter calmed down my anxiety. And we were able to fix the issue 2 minutes before the show was supposed to go on. And it's all a mindset, like creating skills and creating ways and pathways that works for you because everybody is different. But really just anything. Like I also watched Oprah's interview when she said, if you have a negative thought longer than 17 seconds, it goes into another negative thought. So if I say something or feel something that's negative, I really count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Okay, 10 seconds done. I have to switch my mindset. So it's really all about that mindset, how to think, what works for me first, how to catch myself in that moment. And I'm still learning that. I'm still practicing that. And you're going to think this is a little weird, having that conversation within ourselves. Like, if you are judging someone, that judgment, like half of my brain would say the judgment thing. Then I've learned to tap into the other side. But Nigel, what did that person go through? Why do you think the person is that way? why do you think this person is feeling this? Maybe you should pray for them and love on them instead of just, and that's the thing, stopping and not just going with your first thought, but really tapping into and doing that work, that mental and emotional work on other thoughts.
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
very powerful. I appreciate that because that's really powerful. In the anxiety piece, you're not the only one. Um, so I celebrate you for that because, Todd,
It's been a
what say
struggle,
you?
huh?
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. We really do deal with and have to confront these negative thoughts in our head, right? I tend to second guess myself about everything. But what I don't even know, I can't pinpoint when it was. And, at some point I learned that it's my struggle, right? So whether right or wrong, I have a decision to make. And that decision is going to lead to something else. And I think when I was younger, and as most young people do, you just do what feels good. And I'm in a place in my life where I don't do what feels good. I really, to your point, Nigel, I talk to myself. I need to figure this thing out. I talk to God. I need to figure it out. So I'm restructuring myself to say, everything I go through, I'm thankful for. Good or bad, I'm thankful for. I'm just at a point now where I can make better decisions and better choices, so that I don't get the negative consequences. I don't get that bad stuff. And that's a process. Like you said, you have to learn those things, and everything you go through got you to the point that you are. And at some point, I feel like you'll recognize that I just got to do better. I have to do better. People are going to have things to say. You're going to have critics. People have negative things to say. And you really just have to trust that voice in your head. Like you said, you really have to trust that voice. And if you feel it deeply enough and passionately enough, and you've made a decision, go forward with your decision. But understand that you have to deal with the consequences. And so I've taught myself that regardless of what I choose to do, I have to deal with the outcome, right? Nobody else is responsible for that but me. So I try to make better decisions.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that because um, for me, that's the self talk I had to do, the work. And sometimes I find myself telling myself, "Ugh, stop it," stop
Yeah.
overthinking. And not just to your point, it was because of therapy that really helped bring that home. Because in my mind, I always thought that it was people that just that people are just the strongest in the world, or
Mm-hmm.
I think all of my friends, um, I don't want to use that word, but I think all of my friends are just um, super people, the strongest people in the world. And so when they start having doubts and questions, I'm just like, you having doubts?
Right.
Really? I can't believe that. So I think that's really important, just the conversation that you have with yourself. And that's part of why I lean into the Black Boy Joy conversations, because I do find myself having conversations with myself so that when I show up, you know, I'm showing up as myself. And my Black Boy Joy is showing up because I had a conversation with all of me to say,
Mm.
hey, let this go. Don't, sit or stew into that. And, to your point about the 17 seconds, if you could define what it, when you felt your Black Boy Joy, the inner peace, well, you kind of defined earlier when you were watching, Nigel, when you were watching Insecure.
Yes, and I was feeling that moment of like it was that overall day though, and it was just weird because it was just a day of peace, and I didn't do anything special. I didn't do anything totally different, and it was just me by myself the entire day. And I just thought it was funny because the first reason I got into therapy because the main thing that was wrong was I had no love for myself. I just thought I was the most disgusting being physically. And I don't know, I just hated being me.
Mm,
And I don't know where that stemmed from. I don't know where that came from, but I cared about what everybody thought. I cared about if somebody made any comment about my weight, I would just go down. Like, I didn't want to be around anyone after that. But for some reason, it was that day that I just realized, like, I don't have to do anything special, and I actually am happy just by myself. And I think that was the first time. And my friends, they've talked about inner peace and inner joy. And I think that was just like the first time I realized, like, why am I so happy? I'm not doing anything different. Like, why am I happy spending the day by myself in the kitchen in my pajamas, just chilling, cooking, and just like, why do I feel like this weight is off my shoulder? Why? And I was like, that's another problem. Why can't I be happy? Why
Right.
can't I feel that inner peace or inner joy? Why can't I just love hanging out with me? And it was just such a turning point. And I was like, I want more of these days. And it just truly, I don't know. I think that was the first time I understood what inner peace, inner love, inner joy was.
Todd, what is your definition of inner peace, inner joy?
I mean, I don't know if I have a definition. When I think of inner peace and inner joy, I think of things that make me happy, things that bring me joy. I have to think of experiences that bring me joy. I think, again, along the journey, you encounter things that make you happy. When I smile, I feel myself smile. I feel a warmth over myself when I smile. Things that really make me happy, like family and friends, those things I try to keep around me as often as possible. But I do things on my own, and I accomplish things, and it really makes me like take a step back and say, this wasn't promised to you. You made this happen. It didn't have to be this way. And had you stayed on the path you were on, it wouldn't have been this way. And so I recognize those things. And so I try to stay as aware and as in the moment as I can. I don't know how else to say it. Really, every day brings something new. And as I accomplish new things and different things or milestones in my life, I really take a step back and sit in it for a minute and recognize that this
Mm,
just happened. This just happened.
that's powerful. So I want to take another. We have a topic, you guys. We have a
We ain't even
set
talked about the topic.
core topic, but I have to say this, and I promise I don't promise. It's my show. Fuck it. But I've got to ask this question, Nigel. No, it's not just Nigel, but to both you guys. What was it that you felt like stood in between you and your joy or you and your peace? So I'll start because I
Okay.
know I've asked you guys to start before. So for me, I had a challenge. Todd is going to be right. Wish he wasn't here, but I
He's
had a
always right.
problem being alone. And being alone was not about being alone physically, being alone emotionally.
Hmm.
And so I felt like that stood in the way of my joy. Like I couldn't experience true joy without another something in my space, another soul in my space. And now I'm at a perspective of I don't want to compromise.
And you
I
shouldn't
don't
have
want to
to.
compromise. No bullshit, you know. Sorry, mom, if you are listening, love you. Um, but I don't want to compromise with any bull. I don't want, you know, to have something or somebody in my space anymore. That's the decision I made. That's just holding space,
Mm.
And so that for me, that was sending my joy, having things hold space. So what say ye, Toddric? Because it's your name up first.
Um, so I think I dealt with something that a lot of Black queer men deal with. Um, I couldn't experience joy because I was afraid of what the world was going to say. I was afraid of embarrassing my mother. I was afraid of embarrassing my family. I was afraid of tarnishing the family name, or not living up to the expectation that was set out for me. And when I learned to, part of it is that I learned to dispel all of that, and part of it was that my mother told me that she loves me. Right? I'm your son, and thank God, because everybody doesn't experience that. She said, "You're my son. Like, you could never disappoint me to the point where I don't love you." Now I done pissed her off, but not to the point where she wouldn't love me. And so I think when I heard that, I spent a lot of time like trying to stay away from my family. I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to, I was afraid of what I did because it was going to bring shame or it was going to disappoint people. And I think her saying that one thing that I couldn't, I love you, you couldn't disappoint me, changed my whole trajectory and changed my mindset. Because I felt like I don't have to live in this shell where I'm afraid of what people are going to say. I think a lot of queer men or boys deal with, you got to deal with the harassment and stuff at school, on the streets, and then to go home and think, what are my parents going to say or what are they going to do? You can't fully be yourself dealing with all of that, right? So it took that for me to kind of step aside and say, you know what? I mess up, I make mistakes, I'm a mess. And my mama loved me anyway. And I gotta do what I gotta do. So now I have to change the narrative, right? I can't be a mess. I have the power in me to change those things. And I started on that path. So I think that's how it happened for me.
But I can't be a mess.
I can't be a mess.
Can't be a
I
mess.
can't be a mess.
Not Janet's boy. Hey, Mama Janet. So Nigel, what would you say
I
stood in
think
between you and your joy?
I think mine was similar to yours. Um, but I think what stood in between was my lack of faith. I was trying to feel, just in my opinion, feel something that was a spiritual need with something of a physical or worldly. And as people, we try to fill that void or fill that hole with something like, is it love? Is it a boyfriend? Is it a girlfriend? Is it a person? Is it a thing? Is it money? Is it a career? And just trying to fill it, but we're still unhappy.
Yeah.
So I just think once I really start diving into my faith and trusting in God and knowing that He's there and talking to Him each and every day and really giving that time to Him, the beginning of my morning before I even look at my phone, a whole 30 to 45 minutes of just spending time of that peace and that joy with Him. And it just changed my whole outlook. It just changed my whole way of living. And I don't feel alone anymore. I don't feel I don't know. I just don't feel. I feel like that thing that was missing is filled, and I think that had to go with what I was saying about me having that inner peace. Like once I found that relationship with my higher being, like everybody has their own beliefs and their own higher beings, but once you find that relationship and that peace and know that you're not by yourself and that you have peace and joy alone physically but not spiritually, I feel like it just changes everything and things just fall into place. They're not gonna be perfect, but in the midst of going through storms or hardships or hard times, you still feel good inside. And to achieve that, like it's better than what any person could give me.
Yeah.
So I have to pick on you for just 2 seconds, and we talked about this in the green room. Cooking.
Yeah.
If you follow Nigel's social media, I don't know if you post on Instagram too, but Nigel's Facebook. Nigel, you made some eggs this morning that I just was like, I don't even eat omelets like that. But I would have knocked on your door like, little omelet, sir. So what? You talked about that earlier, like you didn't know how to cook. and the point I'm making is that you begin to define or begin to make things your own.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you? Because I mean, you make food porn worthy pictures, like food porn worthy stuff. Like
Come on,
Todd, no
food
lie, you
porn.
have to.
I need to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the omelets he had this morning was just like, oh, okay. I don't even
And it
eat
was
omelets.
weird that people were hitting me up through my DMs like, oh my God. And I was like, y'all, it's food. Like, I know y'all seen food.
Now, if you had posted a thirst trap, it would have been something totally different.
So totally different. But this time I had like women in the age of 50s and 60s like hitting me up like, oh my God. What? I was like, but it was just me defining and just going back to what Toddric said, as you're like getting older, it's not what I can't do or what it's me figuring out I actually like this. I
Yeah.
actually like cooking for myself. And as human beings,
No, no,
we're
no. But
always
let me stop you. Your cooking is Todd food porn worthy. Like, I
I believe.
mean,
So I'm gonna go check it out after the show. But I believe you.
but and then when we were talking earlier, he's like, I just started cooking. I never knew how to cook. I'm like, lies,
no.
because the way that the presentation, so it has to do back to your point about the joy, and so that's what I was trying to go back to. I'm sorry,
Yeah, cut this man
but yeah,
off.
so yeah, what made you, or how did you begin to fall in that space?
Um, I think just taking time for myself and seeing like, okay, this is what I like. And then, with me changing my diet and start cooking more for myself. But I don't know. I never cooked for myself because I was always on the go. I was always in a rush. And to actually just take time to cook some food for me. Like the only time I would try to cook is when I was trying to impress a guy I was dating. But I'm
How'd that turn
actually
out?
it turned out okay, cool. But it's nothing like treating yourself and like preparing a meal. Like, I feel like it's true when someone says, if you treat yourself well,
Mm,
it will open the doors for you to know how you want to be treated when somebody comes into your life.
right.
And if I'm taking time to prepare this bum ass meal for me, I just pray that whoever I'm with, like, note that and try if they can or cannot. Just make an attempt to just try their best with me. And I mean, just going back to like, I think it was you, Todrick. You said like, no, it was you. I think he was like, I can't deal with these bum. What was it, bum asses or bum?
Yeah.
Like nobody has time. But once you really figure out like how to treat you, I promise it just comes. I don't know. Like this self-love thing is really working.
It's real.
Listen,
It's real.
it is real work.
Yeah.
It is real work. And so I'm gonna pick back on Todd in a second, but because I picked on you, so I gotta pick on him in a second. Um, but it's real work. So I'm learning now, like the certain things I like, certain. I have a dog now, Jinx, and you know, um, even Jinx knows when I'm in my mood about something I want him to do. He's like sitting
Leave
in
him
the corner,
alone.
like I'm gonna let him have it. Um, but yeah, it's that self love thing that I I wish I really understood that a year ago. But Todd, picking on you for a second because you are a person that when I tell you persnickety is not the word.
Is that a word?
I don't know, but if I was to play Scrabble, I'd win. Um, you are a person kind of similar to Nigel. Like he has food porn. Nigel, let me tell you something. Was it 2 years ago? Me and this fool decided to do a Christmas party. Guac. We did a guac
You didn't have to tell the story.
cook off. And I'm trying to do the guac according to what goes into guac.
You follow
And
instructions. That's your problem.
And he goes into this whole, you know, we'll have another guac cook-off again, but he is very particular on how things go and things like that. What makes you do that? What is the
Before you do that, Toddric, you did that whole black person, like, when somebody says like, "Oh, they can cook," no, you're like, oh, I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, stop.
listen. I know I'm doing something right if Todd calls me and asks me for a recipe, and he's only done that 2 times in life. I've done it several times, but we're not gonna go there. So, what makes you be the stickler or the way that you are?
I think partially it's innately who I am. But beyond that, again, going back to what we've been talking about all evening, I enjoy my quiet time. I enjoy my time, right? And I think I've been by myself for so long, and I'm in a relationship now, but I've been by myself for so long that I've learned to move and operate how I want to operate and how I want to move. And
Yes.
my quiet, you know me, my quiet space is valuable. If I give you some of that, then you winning. And I believe in protecting this, but in these 4 walls, this is my space, and I have full control of my happiness, of my joy, of my sadness. I can sit with myself and talk and cry, and I value that, and I'm going to protect that as long as I can. But beyond that, it's because my mom made me wake up at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning cleaning the house, and it just stuck with me. So I am very particular, but and I'm being funny, but I've really learned to take value in the things that I have. So my space is important to me, and to build, continue to build what I have. I think that enough is never enough for me. I always want to see how I can get to the next, right? How I can get to the next level, how I can do something better than what I've already have. But I have to take care of what I have, in order for that to happen for me. So, I really relish being in my own space.
I resonate with that.
I can resonate with that now. So having asked all those questions, I want to get to the meat of the topic. I know we are like running.
We 48 minutes in.
I know, but now I want to talk about it. You guys are so interesting. You're great guests. So code switching, whether it be LGBTQIA, GCD, or
ABCD.
in the professional world, how does it? Do you think it's the new normal or our reality? What are your thoughts on code switching?
So we talked about this a little bit the other day. I don't think you say the new norm. I think it is almost in our DNA to code switch as Black people, as Black men, as Black queer men. It's in us to code switch, right? We're taught from an early age you can't do this in front of that person, or you need to present this way when you walk into that door. And we take that with us everywhere we go. So I don't think it's the new normal. I think that it is our normal. It's our existence as Black people in America. We have to do certain things to get certain things. Both of you probably can agree that your mother, your parent, your father, somebody told you at some point, you have to do twice as much to get the same. That's code switching, right? I have to work harder. I have to present a certain way. I have to do a certain thing to get the same thing that's guaranteed, supposedly guaranteed to everybody in this country. And that's not my experience. So I've learned to move a certain way in certain atmospheres. It is what it is.
What are your thoughts on code switching, Nigel? How do you?
So I just want to first agree with Toddric. It's in our DNA, and it's how we were raised. And just going back to how when you get older, we have to re-raise ourselves. Code switching is just another way of oppression. in August 28th, 1963, when Martin Luther King did his I Had a Dream speech, he said he had a dream of equality. Black girls, black boys, white boys, holding hands, just being as one. But I think that's great. But I think Malcolm X also said a comment towards it. That's great. But after that happens, then we're gonna have to go to their places then now and then try their ways and then try their places and then try their spaces. And I resonate with both of what they were saying because that is exactly what happened. I feel that after we became equal
Hmm.
in the early 60s, I think we should have also brought in some type of independency. Um, and that goes with our hair. Women putting in weaves, straightening their hair, saying that their hair is nappy. When they go to professional places, they have to make sure their extensions is in. They are killing themselves to look like their white counterparts. From our clothes, if things are too big or too baggy, if things don't look professional or tight, then we're considered thugs.
Yeah.
All the way to the way that we talk, going back to one of you who said about, oh, that person is has to speak proper, or that person has to turn it on and off. It's just a constant job that we have to do. But I just think it's funny that we are trying to make people who don't have love, understanding, or any self conscience of what we're going through, we're trying to please those people, which is just so crazy to me that we're trying to make sure they're comfortable with us being black.
Mm, yeah. But
Um,
is that not the reality though? That I mean, that is the reality that we live on. Would you say the same, Nigel?
yes,
Well, I
and
agree with you that it's horrible that we have to do that, but that's the reality of the black existence in America.
it is. And it also shows that no matter what level you're on, because I think watching Michelle Obama's being Michelle Obama,
Hmm.
when they attacked her for being the angry black woman, and she was just a woman who happened to be black but spoke her mind.
Right.
The moment she left the White House, she didn't have her hair done like 3 or 4 weeks later. And they were talking about how her hair looked on Fox, how her hair looked nappy.
Hmm. In its
And
natural state.
in his natural state. And that's the thing. Even the first lady and our president has to be perfect. The only thing they could find on President Obama was freaking unpaid parking tickets from college, and he smoked a little weed. But
A
this man,
little.
who's he, you know,
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
but like we're now celebrating just a culture that I just think is weird of a first lady who's been on a porn magazine and a man who has talked about people with cerebral palsy, who said he's going to grab a woman by her vagina, who has said and done things that is crazy. But I digress. I just think it's funny that like no matter what level we get on, and that's why I always laugh at token black people. Like you think just because you are doing this or you're where you are or you're married to this person that you're untouched.
That's okay. Yeah.
That yeah, that is not the case.
But what is token black people? What does that mean when you say token?
Making
I
white
know what it
people
means.
comfortable. They're making white people comfortable. In the
And
sad.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
And believing or having a false belief that prejudice no longer exists.
Because you're in
And
that space.
because you're in that space, and then also siding with Caucasian counterparts on beliefs that has to do with your own African American people where they have no idea of what's going on because they're not living it.
Yeah. Here's the sad reality. And what's so important about the time that we're living in now. And I think, throughout the ages, there have been really important times, right? And we're living in one of those. But here's the sad reality: we're in a country that was not built for us. It was built on our backs, but not for us. And when the founders of this nation said that all men are created equal, we weren't considered men at that time, right? And they fucked up because they allowed us enough levity to figure out that I am a man. I deserve the same thing that you deserve. And so the sad reality is, until the systemic oppression changes, we're always going to have to code switch. I can't go into an interview and be the me and you, Todd, right? I have to go into an interview and be Mr. Professional. And if I don't, I can't pay these bills. And that's my reality. I live with that every day. While I love and support the movement, and I'll march and I'll vote and I'll do all of those things, but I understand that it's two different worlds operating in this same country. And in order for me to get what I want, I have to move a certain way around certain people.
And just going off of that, Toddric, going into an interview for my job, especially when dealing with white women,
Mm.
I become more gay.
Talk about Karen. Let's talk about Karen.
I act more gay on the interview because I will come off less threatening.
That's right now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's funny, like, but when I'm around black men, I code switch and I become more hard.
Yeah.
And it is harder for people of color who are LGBTQIA because we have to operate in different forms and in different pathways just to please other people.
Yeah.
But I just think about my interview with George Johnson. He got to his point where he was like, I'm just going to be me and I'm not going to put myself in a box. Everybody's not able to do that. But to get on that level one day where you don't care what the risk is and you're able to be okay no matter what situation, I bet it's an amazing thing.
That's the dream. I mean, and we shouldn't have to have this conversation, right? If we're afforded the same opportunities as everyone else here, regardless of black, white, queer, non-queer, whatever, if we were afforded the same opportunities, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the sad reality is that for us, until something changes, I don't know when that is, but until something changes, you have to do certain things to make other things happen.
And I think,
So go. No, go ahead.
and I was going to say, I just love this next generation.
Absolutely.
The Generation Z's, because I feel like they just don't give two damns. But I remember growing up in private Catholic school. We just had a conversation about this. We would meet all the black kids. It was my class was a group of 700. No, the school was 700. My class is like 120. And all the African American kids, Hispanic kids, and maybe a couple of white kids, we would meet in Miss Valencia Andrews' classroom. She was the only black teacher at our private school. And a lot of us would come 30 minutes before school started. And it was like a family reunion every morning. Talking, and it was people of different like backgrounds, this different financial situations. Like everybody was just like of difference, just coming together because we had one thing in common, that we were these black kids in this private school. No matter how rich, no matter how popular, no matter how poor, no matter how smart or dumb you were, we were all in this together that 30 minutes before school started. And I would remember just after, like during school, like when I was with white friends, oh, how was your BBB meeting? And then I'll be like, my what? You know, your black meeting. And then he was like, you know how they have the KKK, you know, the black. And then I would just, in my mind in high school, okay, let me laugh it off. And I don't want them to feel uncomfortable to think that we're having a black meeting. And then people would say, "Oh, are you guys gonna start a coup?" I said, "Start a what? A coup on the school? Like, are y'all like planning to take over the school or something?" So just because a group of black people are meeting, and that's the thing, white people think it's so weird. Not all white people, but a good number when that we have to have our own space. And that is essential for us because their norm is not our norm.
Mm-mm.
We have to be totally different people when we go to work, when we go into a bank, when we go into a grocery store. But when we have those places where we can be ourselves, it's so detrimental. And then a month later, our teacher gets an email saying every class except for choir, art, and band cannot meet before school started. And we knew, other than those three classes, we were the only
What it
like
was.
people that went into a classroom before school started. And our teacher told us it hurt her heart to have to lock her door when she gets to work in the morning because we couldn't go into her classroom. And we just laughed at like looking back like, oh my God, I can't believe that's where we were. Like we didn't know that we were going through oppression. We didn't know that we were going through code switching. Like we didn't know that they feared a huge black group of black kids being in a classroom together.
Yeah.
Like, and this is also the same school due to the Catholic beliefs. Um, threw out a kid because he was gay because it's against the rules to be gay in in our Catholic school because it's privately owned, and who also fired the vice principal because one of the students caught him at the movies holding hands with his partner, took a picture, it got around, got to administration, and they fired him.
So they
So
firing the gays?
So,
Shut up,
due
boy.
to it being a private institution and not a public, they're free to do that.
Yeah. But what you said that was so interesting to me was about create. We've always had to create our own spaces. That's what's so, interesting. What you just said, the fact that you guys created a space at school without even knowing really
Without even
what you were
knowing.
doing. But we've always had to create our own spaces, and I think that's so. Not only is it sad, but it limits our possibilities. Right? It's almost like you're saying, well, not almost. You do say you don't belong here. You're not welcome here
Mm-hmm.
on all levels. And so we've always, again, back to what you said earlier, it's in our DNA to create our own spaces, to surround ourselves with people who make us feel important, who make us feel valued, who make us feel like we belong in that space. We've always had to do that.
So how do you feel like you make that space without alienating others?
Listen, if you want to come, come on. Nobody's
Pretty
stopping it.
much.
I think that the argument with Black Lives Matter. Nobody's saying that your life doesn't matter. What we're saying is that at this point in time, it's prevalent for us to say Black Lives Matter. So the same applies. Like I don't want to create a space where nobody else is welcome. I create spaces with Black men, with same gender loving men, because that's who I am and that's where I feel comfortable, and they make me feel comfortable and they create those spaces for me. But that's not to say, and you know this, Ryan, like when we party, like the door is open. If you want to come, come on.
Right.
And I think more times than not, the reverse is given to us, right? You don't open your space to us. You don't welcome us. And we're doing exactly that. So I don't worry about alienating anybody because everybody's welcome within
And
reason.
and then the thing is, and I always explain when people say all lives matter, all lives do matter. But when you go to the doctor and you broke your arm, but another doctor said, oh, but what about their foot? But what about their leg? No, it's their arm that's broken that we need to care for because that's the thing that is injured. That's the thing
Yeah.
that is hurting them. That's the thing that we need to put back together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
if you look at the Jewish society, if you look at the Hispanic culture, if you look at the white culture, the Italian culture, they all invest in each other. They all is a family unit. They all came here on purpose.
Mm.
We were brought here against our will and raised in a segregated way and raised in an oppressed way. And then when we're free, you say, okay,
Go
live.
get it.
And you're just like, wait, what? We don't know how to do that. And we need healing. We're still going through a healing process. We're still that broken arm and we still need mending. So for when people say all lives matter, all lives do matter, but we need to start focus on a certain set of lives
Yeah.
that's been through so much for 400 years. And people, and not all white people, some black people, it's 400 years ago. We can't forget that.
And we're
We
not that
can't
far
forget our
removed.
history.
We're
We're
not
not
that far removed. I was
1963.
I was
We
raised
just
with my
became
great
equal.
grandparents, and my great grandparents were actually slaves. So we're not that far removed from being oppressed, being whipped, being shackled, being, all these things. So for somebody to say, get over it, to your point, like, we're not that far. I remember it because we've lived it. Whether,
Mhm.
it wasn't slavery, but we've certainly lived oppression, discrimination, segregation, separate but not equal. You know,
And we're
mm,
still living it now. And I feel like every generation, the mask just changes.
yeah,
It's the same people, the mask just changes. With the when we have our videos now of people saying the N word, of people, no, not even that, of people say, but my friend is white, so I can say it. Why can't we say the N word? Or maybe if you shouldn't been in that area, it wouldn't have happened to you. They're just changing the verbiage.
yeah.
Even with LGBTQ, when you see on like Tinder or gay apps, no whites, no Asians.
Uh,
It's a
no.
preference.
No fast,
And
no films.
and that's the thing. You're changing your verbiage. But when you say no whites, no Asians, those were the same things that were saying on signs in the 1940s, in the 1950s, no blacks allowed, no
Yeah,
Asians allowed. And just because you're putting preference in front of it, you're still being
it's the
racist.
same thing. It's the
It's
same
the
thing.
same thing.
So how do we or you separate that from experiencing your joy? When you go from code switching all day long, whether it be LGBTQ or it be black man or it be just a man in general, for me, working in the industry that I work in, I oftentimes have to code switch. I'm, Ryan O, Ryan Jones, um, all these different atmospheres. How do you deal with the pressures of code switching, or deal with the aftermath of code switching? Once you've done the code switching all day long, how do you deal with it, Toddric? How do you deal with it, Nigel? Like, how do you deal with it um, in your zone?
I'll be honest. Sometimes I don't even recognize that it's happening. Sometimes I'm very aware. To your point, I go to work to make a check. I don't go to work to make friends. I don't go to work to, if it happens, it happened. Um, but I have to do what I have to do to pay my bills. End of the day. Now I'm going to make sure that I, have integrity in everything that I do. I'm going to make sure that I'm respected in everything that I do. But I realize that that is my reality. So again, going back to your quiet space, when I come home, none of that stuff matters. When I come home, I'm able to get a little bit of peace because I create the narrative between these four walls. And when I'm there, you're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to talk to me in any kind of way. but I'm going to do what I need to do to get my job done and get my check and keep it moving. The flip side of that is you get pulled over by the cops and you have to act a certain way, and we may not make it out of that situation. And so I'm keenly aware all the time that, somebody is watching you, somebody is judging you, somebody doesn't think that you're worth the air that you breathe, right? And so I have to protect that. Nobody else is going to protect that but me. Did I lose y'all?
No.
Okay. I thought I was on by myself.
No. That's really unique. So, what would you say is your what's the word? What would you say would be your saving grace or your experience, Nigel, to when you come home? How do you deal with it? How do you experience it?
Uh, I really have to be confident. Um, I think that's the first thing. Being confident in my skills, being confident in what I know how to do, and standing by like just my knowledge of things, but not being cocky or anything like that, but just really just being confident in like who I am with the whole with me in general. Because when just going back to what Toddric said, when people have to be we have to be twice as smarter or quicker, and that is not a lie, that is true. No one can tell me about my craft, especially at work. Nobody can do this better than me because I know I'm going to research, or I know I'm going to just try my best in doing what I can to be the achiever, but at the same time being kind and being understanding and knowing when to ask help.
That's powerful, like knowing when to ask for help. So, in in imaginary or in your life, what would be your um, what would be how you ask for help?
um,
How do you ask for help?
I'm honest. Well, that's one thing. If I don't know how to do something, first I'll see if I can teach myself. That's one. If I can't teach myself, I will find somebody. I don't mind, because I'd rather find out how to do something now than to have to go back and mess up and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. So I'm to the point that I don't know how to do this. I tried. I looked at YouTube videos. I sought help. But at the end of the day, if I don't know, like, I'm gonna ask for help, and just teach me and tell them to talk to me like I'm in kindergarten. I need step by step by step.
That's powerful. So, what I want to do now is um, our time is kind of far spent. We've
So is my
uh,
battery.
yeah. Thank you for letting
Yeah.
us know. Yeah, I know both your batteries is gone because you're both on iPhones. But I want to take a moment here and introduce something new to Black Boy Joy. Your sweet spot. What's your sweet spot
What is your
now?
definition of sweet spot?
Okay.
Okay, so I was about to define that. So your sweet spot is, what is the thing that you can't turn down for your joy? What is like, mm, that's my,
Oh,
like some people, if they hear "nuck if you buck," they just gonna automatically turn up. Thank you, Todd. Um, what is your sweet spot? Who wants to go first? I'm not gonna pick. Who wants to go first?
I'm not. I gotta think
I'll
on
go
this.
first. So
Sweet
I'm a
spot.
nerd.
Okay.
Mine is anime. Um, I have to watch my anime and have my me time and nerd out. And my friends pick on me and was like, "What are you watching cartoons?" I was like, "No, it's Japanese cartoons. There's a difference." So I think my sweet spot is anime, because I don't know. It's about these heroes, adventures, and people like going through the odds. and they just happen to have like, some are supernatural, some are not. So I just thought it's just like so dope, and it just resonates with our lives of what's going on about just being put in the worst situations and not giving all the best resources, but making something like great out of what you have and moving forward, and just pushing on. And then there's another thing that's getting ready to come after this, and like I'll have to say anime. That's like my sweet spot. I'll watch the YouTube videos. Like I'm a true nerd.
Okay, nice. So, Todd, what is your sweet spot?
I've had a minute to think about this. I think my sweet spot is really when I'm able to affect change and help somebody and see somebody smile. And Ryan, you know this all too well. Ryan's nephew is my godson, and so when I can, change his life or make him smile like that, that changes my world. That's my joy. That's where I walk in the best of me. When I can make my mother smile or my family smile or somebody that I don't even know, when I can make them, happy and smile and do what I can, you have to give back. And I feel like, I'm a strong believer in whatever you want to call it, karma, call it what you will, but I'm a firm believer that you get what you put out in the atmosphere. And so I try to put good things out in the atmosphere so that I'll have good things in my life. And the way I go about doing that is doing for the least of those, right? Somebody who can't do for themselves and not expect anything in return. So when I can make somebody happy, when I can make somebody's day, when I can, really, change the trajectory of what somebody is going through, that's my sweet spot. That's where I love to be. With no thank you, with no return, no value return, with just seeing the light on their face or the smile on their face or knowing that I have done something special for somebody, that's where I think I excel.
That's powerful. I'm glad that you can own that part of your sweet spot. So, as we are wrapping up, how do you show your joy to Todd? You said earlier, my nephew, which is your godson, he calls and texts you more than he does me. Yes,
Absolutely. What would you expect?
I'm doing a horrible floor to my nephew who does not text me often. Um, as
Keep it
much as he
moving.
texts his godfather. How do you show him your black boy joy? How do you pass the baton on? And
Um,
the same question for you, Nigel. So think about it. How do you pass on the baton of your black boy joy?
so I love this question. Um, the sad reality is that, I've had to have the conversation with my godson that, his goal every day is to make it back home. I've had to, in some ways, teach him the code switch and say, if you get pulled over, just comply, because I need him to make it home for his mother's sake, for my sake, for his family's sake. And so, how do I turn that into something else? Right? That's really the goal. I have to let him see me living my best life. I have to let him see me happy. As down as I am sometimes, or regardless of the bullshit I'm going through, I don't ever want to put that off on him. I need to, while I need him to understand that the world is a certain way and you have to operate in that world, I also need him to understand that you can make the best out of this world that you live in, and I do that by allowing him to see me be great. And being conscious when I'm doing things that somebody's watching you, somebody's coming behind you. So I want to lay a path not just for him, but like Nigel said earlier, the next generation that's coming along. How do I lay a path for them? Being in corporate America, I'm often the first or only Black man in my position. And that's really me laying a path for another young man to get out of college and come to that interview and say, hey, I can do this too. And so I have to be aware that I'm laying a path, for my godson, for other Black men and women that come after me. That's how hopefully we change the narrative here. And that's all of our responsibilities. And I'm at a place in my life where I really understand that that's my responsibility. And I want him to see better for himself. And I want him to do better than I did. So I have to emulate that.
How do you, Nigel, feel like you show up in the world for your people or the people that are watching you? How do you show up?
Um, I think I show up by creating topics that are rarely discussed. Like I said, just helping to create a platform for people who are of color, for their stories to be told, and that we're just like as black men, as especially as black gay men, we're not just like BBCs. We're not just something that you just use and then throw away. We have feelings, we have brokenness, we have situations, we have emotions, we go through life, we go through traumas, and we want to, we never have a space to talk about it. So I really wanted to give back to my community by providing that space, just going back to what I was talking about, how we just subconsciously like just group together to talk and to have that space as African Americans. And I just wanted people of all colors just to feel welcome, that they have a place and a space to talk about what's going on in their lives.
That's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to share what my cousin just said. Allies are best support, sometimes close to a door. Bring your authentic self. What message would you say to your allies, whether it be LGBTQAIA or Black Lives Matter or just Ryan? What is your message that you would ask that your allies would bring to the table?
I'll let Nigel go.
I would say to our allies, don't assume, to listen and to support. Um, Everybody's situation is different. We see there are some allies for Black Lives Matter that are white who have been hurt, hit, taken down, shot at, arrested. And I feel like there are some who are just doing it for love, like they truly want to see some changes.
Yeah.
So I would just tell them to keep doing what they're doing, but at the same time, just know that you are not going through, that we are going through this, but continue to support and be at the forefront and sacrifice yourself in doing so for us. And we thank you, but just continue to understand that you're not the one who's going through this, that you're here for us.
Yeah, yeah, very similar. I think it's funny because I on Juneteenth I had a coworker reach out to me. She texted me and she said, "White girl, and she's LGBTQ, and she's an ally." She said, "Is it okay for me to say Happy Juneteenth?" I said, "Yeah, it's okay. You're an ally, and you understand what we're going through, and you support the movement." I second what Nigel said. Understand that we appreciate your acceptance, we appreciate your understanding, we appreciate your fighting with us. But I think what I would say is sometimes take a step back and stay in your lane, because we have, and to Nigel's point, this isn't your fight. While you sympathize, you don't empathize with us, because there's no way that you could
Mm.
understand what we've gone through and what we deal with on a day to day. So I appreciate you. I love you for where you're coming from, but oftentimes I think, and we've seen it in the Black Lives Matter movement, where whites move to the forefront. It's really not your fight. I appreciate you being there. I appreciate your support, but it's not your fight. And you have to understand that. I think, as somebody said this earlier, oftentimes white Americans hang with black Americans, and so they think it's okay to say certain things. They think it's okay to do certain things. And we say and do things because of our experience, because we've lived it, because our ancestors have lived it, because they've gone through something. And I think, our allies have to understand that that's not your space. You can't operate in that space. You can be there to support us and to fight with us, but there are certain things you can't do. And sometimes you just need to take a step back and let us fight the good fight.
That's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that's very powerful. Like, how do we share and do our good fight? So we are beyond our time. I'm so
Like
grateful.
30 minutes.
Thanks, Bestie, for sharing that. Um, um, I am so grateful for you guys being here in this time. We have expounded and so forth. Nigel, will you come back?
Of course.
So I am grateful for Nigel
I am
Ashford.
shocked and appalled.
Why?
You asked Nigel to come back and you didn't ask me. Keep it moving. I'm not coming back. How about that?
You coming back? Nigel, he's coming back, right?
We good. We good over here.
No.
We good over here.
As best friend, you're coming back. I am so grateful for the opportunity to have both of you here. We didn't really dive into code switching as I would have liked, but I promise you, we will do it again because everything else you said was so informative. Like it was so empowering. Like you know, um, from how your joy looks, how all of that, what you do and it shows up. Um, this is all about a conversation.
Mhm.
And so I'm just grateful for you guys having this time. I don't want to impede on it. I mean, we've been on here for about an hour and 26, 30 minutes.
26 minutes. Yeah.
And um, I'm so grateful because you extended me outside of myself. Also, we did not post this on my personal Facebook page originally, which didn't get us as many likes or follows. I'm not about the follows or likes. I'm about the content. And you guys have provided some amazing content. So yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So Nigel, how do we find you? How do we find this food porn that you post? Not the thirst trap.
Because I'm looking.
This food.
So first, I don't post my food because I always say I can't stand people who just be posting their food. So I'll just do it to my story. I don't want to be a whole contradiction. But after just seeing people just be like, "Oh my god, oh my god," I'm like, okay, maybe I should. But yeah, just keep following me. And also, if you're interested in Outspoken, we are getting our Outspoken website together. We're getting our Outspoken Instagram and Facebook page as well together, and it should be up by next week. Our Outspoken website will be outspoken LGBTQ.com. And the Facebook would be outspoken underscore LGBTQ as well. And the Facebook would just be outspoken. But we're getting everything built up and running, and everything should be up by next week. Fingers crossed. We just did a couple of photo shoots and everything for it. So I'm really excited. And also, I am partnering up with Image of a Man Media, who is going to showcase my show through Apple TV and Roku television as well. So, yeah.
Nice. Congratulations on that amazing um, experience. I want to support you. So, Outspoken. So, Facebook, YouTube, follow him on Outspoken. Um, what can we do to support you?
Just watch. So tomorrow we have a show. It's our earliest show ever. At 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. But since it's live, you can always watch the recording. So since it's 4th of July, I wanted to do a topic on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That took place. The bill was approved in 1993 when Bill Clinton was president. and basically stated, if you're gay or the LGBTQ, as long as you don't say you are, you can stay in the military. The Obama administration took down that law so you can freely be open to be LGBTQ. And we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Trump administration trying to pass the bill, which was shut down, not allowing transgenders to become a part of the military. But we have one guest. We have two guests coming up. One is a transgendered man who is now also teaching how to not be oppressed, who is now teaching officers how to communicate, talk with people who are transgender in the military. He's also talking about his time as when he was first originally a woman and tried to enlist to go into the military. But when they asked, "Are you LGBTQ?" he said yes, and he was denied entrance. And he did a whole sit-in protest and everything. And then we have another individual who's the co-creator of Black Veterans Officials. So he's going to just come from being gay, being in the military, and also just going through the racism and discrimination of being in the military and after as well. So it's going to be a really good show.
Awesome. And how can they find your show?
So
It's
just go on my personal page for right now, Nigel Ashford, and it'll be posted there. But we are going to start uploading on YouTube, and then we're going to have that website in a week or two so they can go on the website as well. But for right now, just go to my personal page, Nigel Ashford, and you just scroll down past the food pictures, and you'll see the live videos of me doing my show. We're on episode 8 starting next week. I mean, starting tomorrow. So I haven't missed a beat yet. So hopefully we can continue it going on.
so really quick. As we end wrap up, if there's a book or a quote that you would recommend, what would it be?
Okay. George Johnson, All Boys Blue. I interviewed him last week. The reason I interviewed him is because I never read a book that it's his memoir stemming all the way from age 5 to mid to late 20s when he was in college, talking about the changes of his teeth getting broken in, which created trauma at the age of 5. Him liking and loving double dutch, but people telling him like, are you a faggot? Are you gay? And now him at the age of 11 in his mindset, okay, let me play football so I can let people be comfortable around me. To him talking about having a transgender cousin and how he saw himself in that person because he didn't see any other gay or queer people around. Like that was his only role model. And then him also talking about being molested at a young age by his cousin. To him losing his virginity through topping and bottoming, to him losing his grandmother, who was the closest person in his life, him also talking about what it meant when a parent says, I love all my children equally, but each child needs something specific. And he talked about how his mother set certain people in his life because she, in the back of her mind, knew that he was different. And she connected him to like aunts who have raised LGBTQ or who are more open. Like she purposely put certain people in his life and filled those positions. Like it was such a book of growth, acceptance, and self-love. And that was one of the books that I can honestly say I read twice, not just to prepare for the interview, but because I simply loved the book. And I said, I haven't liked anything like this since Harry Potter. So I think that's what I would recommend. He's on the bestsellers list. He is 34 years old, young black guy, and doing young black queer male and doing his thing. So, and he just made Oprah's top 5 list, and Gabrielle Union is also looking to try to make his book into a movie. So he is really doing a great thing. We should support him.
I love George M. Johnson. Like his books is amazing. So I've read a couple of his tweets. I follow him on Twitter. So yeah, he's really dope. So kudos to that. Todd, how can we stay in touch with you or what you're doing and besides being on Black Boy Joy as best friend?
As best friend. I'm working on a
Number
couple
two.
things very soon. Ryan and I are actually partnering on a project, Black Boy Rule. So very soon you'll hear about Black Boy Rule and what that's all about. I'm, on Facebook. It's my name, Toddric Daniels, at Toddric Daniels. I am co-host to a startup podcast that we finished our first season right before COVID hit. Actually, we finished our first season. And it's called Dynamic Business Approach Podcast, and you can find it at Dine Biz app on all streaming platforms. And it's just two black men talking about how it really, Ryan, it really covers a lot on code switching and how we move through corporate America. So it's just a really candid conversation with the two of us about business and how to move in business and how to move up in business as a black man. So the first season is out. You can check that out. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for you both being here. I'm really appreciative of your time and your energy and just I know it takes a lot. So thank you for sharing your Black Boy Joy and I'm excited about what's happening in your both lives. Outspoken. Please follow Outspoken. It's dope.
Thank you.
Please follow Toddric Daniels. He's dope. Um, and so I want to again say thank you all for supporting. If you had a quote or a book to be your sweet spot, what would it be at the end? I know
So
this is it.
this is
Your
it. So
quote or your
right
sweet
now,
spot.
and I got all my books ready. So right now I'm reading Dream Teams. It's a great book about how to move in corporate America, work with different teams, build strong teams. I just started that. I just finished Between the World and Me, which was a great read. And I'm going to pass this on to my godson because I feel like he needs to read it.
He does.
And I just finished Barracoon, which was a slave narrative, one of the last slave narratives that's in an unpublished work of Zora Neale Hurston until very recently. And so all three, well, these two specifically have really impacted my life and changed my life in some way. And just hearing the words of someone who was in the fields and doing the work. And then on the total opposite end of the spectrum, you have Ta-Nehisi Coates talking about what it means to be a black man and move in this space in the time that we're in. So both are really great readings. I would recommend them to everyone.
So
Toddric, you was
Nigel, what would
ready.
you recommend?
I said mine.
The say it
All
again.
boys are blue.
All boys are blue.
Aren't blue.
Yes. Aren't blue.
That's my next read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
Toddric was ready. He got 3.
They just happen to be at my desk. They just happen to be at my desk.
So I am reading attached attachment theory, and I am reading It Did Not Start With You.
Okay. You talked about that on the
Two
previous episode.
two powerful books that are amazingly powerful. One is talking about it did the trauma didn't start with you, and the other one is just attachment theory. How do you deal with your different attachments and relationships? So I'm truly grateful for both of these books and the impartations that they have. And so, you know, again, we have
We almost
exhausted our
went two
time.
hours. We could talk all night.
I know, but we've exhausted our time. And so Nigel has a drink to make. And Nigel, what are
Post
you gonna
it.
and
drink?
and food to eat. I think
Post
I
And
it.
might I might have some clear. I don't know whatever my friend has downstairs. I think it's gonna be clear.
clear.
Um,
but we'll see because my alcohol level, because I don't drink due to my diet. So like I haven't had a drink in a while. So we're gonna do a little two max and
Two
keep it
max.
rolling.
Well, I'm empty.
Well,
So
you're empty. I'm empty. So
I knew it.
let's end the night with this wonderful broadcast. I thank you guys for both being here. I look forward to you coming back again and sharing some more about your Black Boy Joy. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you for having me. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. Good night.